there we are. Well, welcome to episode 14 of the White Whale Marketing Podcast. I'm Chris Nascimento, and as always, we're in collaboration with the Sport Marketeer. It's a sports marketing newsletter where each week we talk about, different topics or ideas that we have in regards to the sports marketing industry or even just in regards to sports business. So that newsletter comes out every Friday, gets sent right to your inbox. So you can subscribe there. If you're watching on YouTube, Twitch, Facebook, just check the link in the description. You can find us there. And if you're on Instagram, just tune in via our White Whale Marketing accounts. So with that, let's add Haral and AJ onto the stream on Facebook, YouTube, and Twitch. And I guess we're on Instagram too now. So with that, let's get into today's topics as always. So actually, there's one thing we need to cover first. I just forgot. So if you're watching on Twitch and the other platforms that aren't Instagram, we'll share a screen here. And, Haral spoke some things into existence. So the Canucks, not too long ago, they dropped a special edition Diwali jersey for warm-ups. Haral posted it because he's working for the Canucks as well. And, I was like, hey, Haral, what's the odds we're going to see this on a podcast? And Haral, show the people, man.
The odds are 100%. Let's go. We don't take any L's here. But yeah, the hoodie came in. I'm excited. Obviously, we are, and I think, we're all big fans of like cool collaborations between brands and stuff, especially when sports teams do it. So, when the Canucks partnered up with some local Punjabi artists to create a Diwali edition logo and stuff for their jersey, I had to cop it for the hoodie. It's a nice, fresh little yellow color. It really represents Diwali, the Festival of Lights. The logo is super great too. And so, had to put it on, had to rep. And, it came in just today. I got the email. So it's perfect timing. So it looks like I might have put it into existence, but Chris's tweet started manifesting it.
Yeah, no, for sure. That's good stuff. It looks unreal, especially the hoodie. I think the hoodie almost looks even better.
We stay dripping.
Yeah, no, for sure. Okay. Well, with that, I think we had a little echo issue there, but I think it should be fixed here shortly. But anyways, with that, let's kind of get into today's topics. And that's in regards to Canada soccer, right? We did a live stream the other day on Tuesday, and I think that did unreal, right? I think we had 80 views, something like that, on different platforms. It was by far our best live stream that wasn't related to, gaming. It blows the podcast numbers out of the water where it's just us sitting down watching soccer. So that was pretty cool. But, with that, and we kind of chatted about this at the end of the stream, what's next, right? That game was, historic, right, guys? So you guys can touch on the game first before we kind of get into the topics.
Haral, take it away.
Oh, what else do you want me to say? Brampton 2, Mexico 0. Oh, man, it was such a wonderful – I mean, I had a hell of a time on the stream with you guys, obviously, but damn, the game – it's electric. Obviously, it was fun. The Azteca was proven to be the frozen fortress that Mexico could not conquer. Seeing Brampton man Kyle Larin score 2 goals, what's not to love? Talking about Taylor Swift having Nico on the pod. Game aside, it's just a great night overall. So I am electric.
Yeah, for sure. It was definitely a good time. Crazy to see too, right? Where it's just like, I don't know, it's almost like a storybook. I don't know, like everything went right? So that was cool. And just with the ice tech and all that stuff, it was unreal. But with that, right, some of the things we just want to Brampton represent on Instagram Live. But
always.
Anyways, one of the things that we just want to discuss, right, with games like this taking place in Canada soccer on the rise, we want to talk about, what's next, what's the impact of, these games, right? So 3 major topics we want to kind of break down in regards to, how this impacts, future athletes and Canadian soccer players, teams and leagues, as well as brand, right? So any of you guys want to go first, or should we just start with the athletes?
We'll start with the athletes, start right at the call.
So I think the biggest thing, I'm going to be the one writing about the athletes article here in regards to next week or tomorrow's The Sport Marketeer. And it's a huge impact just because, growing up, if you're a soccer fan, as you can see with AJ and even Haral, both of them have Manchester United jerseys in the background here, right? So you're always kind of looking up to, these top-level European clubs, right? And I'm not saying that you won't now because of this, because hopefully Canadian talent continues, prospering in Europe. But now you're starting to see the Canadians doing it, right? So we're not necessarily going to see the next generation of soccer fans in Canada just be Ronaldo, Messi, whatever fans. Now it's gonna be Davies, David, Laren, right? So I think that's pretty cool. So it's definitely gonna have some type of Canadian influence where maybe it's even a little bit of that Vince Carter effect with Alphonso Davies, just in regards to soccer. So yeah, what kind of things do you think this is gonna start happening on like the next generation of athletes?
I think like the biggest thing is you can kind of correlate it to what happened with hockey. Is when you see like the big superstars in hockey that are from Canada and certain parts of Canada, you see people in youth, they start playing hockey, they start wearing the Crosby jerseys, they start wearing the McDavid jerseys, they start, idolizing these players, and they become the face of the game in that nation, right? Back in 2010 during the World Cup, everything was based around Crosby, especially when he won the gold medal for him in overtime there. I mean, everything became based around these players. I think that's actually what's going to happen with Canada soccer, let's say in the next 5 years, especially in the 2026 World Cup when it's in Canada, Mexico, and the US. I think guys like Alphonso Davies, Jonathan David, Tajon Buchanan, even Kyle Laren, people that are playing soccer even more and more now than they were 10 years ago in Canada, it's going to be a lot more focused on these athletes as their idols. Maybe they'll still be idolizing Ronaldo or Messi, Mbappe or Haaland in Europe, but I still think there'll be that sensitivity and empathy for the homegrown talent. And I think there's going to be a strong emphasis on our homegrown talent in Canada. And I think it's just going to keep growing our spectatorship, right? More and more fans are going to go to the games. More people are going to buy the jerseys. And 10 years ago, no one watched Canada soccer. And I wouldn't be surprised if, the game against Mexico is one of the most viewed Canada soccer games of all time, right?
Oh, for sure.
Oh yeah, I think also for the athletes, especially for Canadian athletes in specific, I'll talk about the pros first, and then we'll talk about the youth ones later. For the pros, it felt like for a long time, and it still kind of exists now, where the only way you can achieve any sort of familiarity or success, or even just some sort of strong brand, is by playing internationally. Obviously, most of the Canadian soccer talent that we have now, the Davies, David, Kyle Laren, even Atiba, they're all playing in Europe. And at one point we thought, the only way we could tie our Canadian soccer talent to their brand would be through their European and their domestic success in the leagues. Mm-hmm. With the success of the international team, not only are players who are playing in the MLS or players who have maybe never had that step to Europe before able to create a name for themselves. It's not just a local name anymore. It's a global name. And obviously, the impact of their name and their success on the international level is going to be felt the most in Canada within the confinements of our borders, for sure, from coast to coast. But there's something about putting on the maple leaf and having success while wearing the maple leaf that makes it so much more important. Because obviously, Canadian soccer has been around for decades, but the success that our players had domestically was stronger than what they had on an international level. Jonathan Osorio, for example, he won the MLS with Toronto FC, and that was his claim to fame. But now he's on Team Canada, and that does so much more for the athletes brand. So I'm really excited about that.
Yeah, no, I think it's obviously for the athletes on Team Canada, it's gonna do immense amount of things for those athletes. But I think it even goes way beyond that, right? Just in regards to let's say any professional Canadian soccer player, men's or women's, I think it's going to have a huge impact now, right? Where there's going to be such an increase in interest, or maybe even signups again, right, in soccer, where you're going to see kids again, right? Everyone wanting to play soccer, where soccer is the cool sport to play, or even just in regards to merchandise, X, Y, Z, or even we'll get into it in regards to team and league level, but maybe people want to start attending CPL games, youth sports, etc., right? So I think that's going to start benefiting. And that's going to also start increasing the brands of all these different athletes where, they're going to become a little more visible, right? They're going to get more exposure. And as that goes, maybe with so much more eyes on it, and people are like, oh, you know what? I respect Canadian soccer, right? I'm seeing what they're doing on the international stage. Let's go scout this game, or let's, if we're a brand, why not? Let's go look at getting a Canadian soccer player tied to us, because we want to, ride this wave and continue growing alongside their growth, right? So I think that's going to have a major impact.
For sure. I think it's like a feedback loop, right? Because I was talking to some of the team managers who are the team manager for Bram Girls United, which is the club in Brampton that Kadisha Buchanan and Ashley Lawrence used to play for. And so, we went to go talk about them after they won the gold medal there. But after the pandemic, youth soccer enrollments and sports enrollment in general definitely took a dip, just because there were no sports. Generations lost years on their summer soccer careers and stuff. So it's hard to fall in love with the game again. And it's like you mentioned there, it creates that feedback loop where you have the players achieving success internationally, which lets the youth be inspired by them and want to play the sport. It grows the sport, and then on top of that, it grows the brand of the athlete. The more soccer players you have, the more the market for soccer athletes will increase as the game gets more popular. And so you're just feeding into that positive feedback loop where ultimately, like you said, it's going to create a strong brand for the athletes. The more that they inspire young kids to continue to get involved with the game and focus their consumptionship on the sport itself and also the game beyond the game.
We've seen, we sorry to interrupt there, but we've seen what's happened in the past with professional athletes that have had allegiance to Canada and other countries. Like, I don't know if you guys know, back in 2006, 7, 8, played for Manchester United, Owen Hargreaves. He was Canadian. Yep. We have Tamori, who now plays at AC Milan. He's Canadian, born in Calgary, and then moved to England when he was young. These guys are very, very good players. Hargreaves is a Champions League winner, but played for England over Canada, even though they have the opportunity to play for Canada. I think the reasoning behind that is because there wasn't really an established or successful Canadian team at that point. So I think what's happening now is, now that we're seeing a lot more success with the Canadian team, like top of the group, possibly going to the World Cup, co-hosting in 2026, what's going to happen is when these players do reach these pro levels, whether it be in Canada, whether it be in the States, whether it be in anywhere in Europe, they're going to feel more inclined to play for their national team because they actually feel like there's something worth playing for. And I think that's it's going to drive that national identity of playing soccer for your country. It's that pride and that passion playing for your country, rather than saying, oh, well, my grandpa's from somewhere in the Middle East and my grandpa's somewhere from Africa or in Europe. I'm going to go play for them or try and play for them. It's going to be like, okay, I've made it to the top level now. Now let me go and try to play for Canada. Let me represent my country. Let me wear that red maple leaf and that red or all black kit and prove myself on an international level where there really hasn't been that before. And that's what I think is the most exciting out of all of it.
For sure. And I think right before we get into that, what was I going to say? Well, like, one of the things I forgot to mention earlier, even when we're reaching out, right, for our athletes that are, let's say, in regards to soccer, with, the hype and the trending, the upward trend of soccer in Canada, I'm like, hey, like, you guys should get in on this. And it's actually something brands are like, yeah, you know what, you're not wrong, right? This is something that even brands and, companies that where they're looking to spend marketing dollars, they see this as a, an advantage, right? Of, hey, even though the national team are the ones, getting viewed and exposed on, TSN, Sportsnet, whatever it was on the other day, it's even kind of going down to in regards to the CPL athletes we work with, right? So I think that's interesting on its own. But as you're saying, right, I think this kind of transitions well in regards to, our next topic in regards to, team and league. That's more AJ's topic here for this upcoming newsletter. And that's in regards to, the pride you're talking about, right? Where, it's kind of like how, players now when they play soccer, they're like, I got to go to Europe. And once I go to Europe, then that's when I made it, right? Whereas now with the CPL, and the whole point of the CPL is really for, development, right? Where they're, pushing the emphasis on, I think it's U21, like under 21 players, they have to play a certain amount of minutes and everything like that to really develop Canadian talent. So maybe people are like, oh, you know what, like, I could have success in regards to my professional career if I play within Canada for a bit and then I go to Europe, right? Rather than just necessarily just kind of jumping in the deep end and, maybe getting lost in the mix in Europe. But yeah, AJ, take it away.
I think that's one of the biggest issues that Canada and Canadian development, at least, has been in the past 2 decades. You get these special talents that grow at a young age. They become very popular. They become brilliant players. And then their first instinct is, even at 16 years old, is to leave the country. Mm-hmm. I mean, like Jonathan David, Jonathan David, we can even say. 18 years old, he was playing in Ottawa. He was playing for Nepean Hotspurs, playing for the provincial team, I think he was playing League One or Men's Premier at the time in Ottawa. And then as soon as he got the offer, he went off to Club Bruges, right? I think it was Club Bruges. Or was it Ghent? Yep. One or the other. But as soon as he had the opportunity and had that pro contract, he was able to leave. He developed very well there and then got the transfer to Lille, right? And then became a league winner this past year. So I think the effect this Canadian national team has on the domestic levels is kind of to inspire the next generation and even the current generation that Canadian soccer is here to stay. The quality is good. I mean, top of the group right now in CONCACAF. The quality is good. The leagues are good. There's top players in these leagues. So you might as well stay here because you will still develop. You'll get the minutes you'll make the rise, you want to build up and you make that national team. And like you said, Chris, like that's the point of the CPL. That's the point of these leagues like League One. And even another point to mention as well is that's U Sports as well, because U Sports are the ones that do the draft into the CPL. So it's that point of going from homegrown Canadian talent, making your way up to the pyramid, similar in Europe, making your way up the pyramid to the top level in Canada, and then hopefully playing for the national team. I think it's going to drive a lot more youth to be the best that they can be, and then one day represent their country.
Yeah.
I think it. No, I was gonna say it's about creating that ecosystem, right, AJ? Like, obviously, the best of the best out on Team Canada are still playing in Europe. Like, Alphonso Davies obviously rocking it at Bayern Munich, one of the top clubs in the world, honestly. But the moment you start to see, you gotta, I guess, show the athletes there's a reason to stay in the CPL. There's a reason to not only for like investors to invest in the CPL as a development league, to invest in the athletes, but the athletes also got to need a reason to invest their time into these leagues. And the moment you show them that like this is a pathway to like, being part of something better, that national pride, staying home, staying local, and being able to develop your game to becoming a global icon while still being at home is ultimately, I think, the next step for these leagues. And that's, I think, is probably it is what the CPL wants to obtain. And I think Team Canada's success only helps the CPL, never hurts it.
Yeah. I mean, before you go ahead, Chris, I just want to make a quick point, like about like what you said. It's wanting to actually invest in these clubs as an athlete. And I think over the past 2 years, they've shown it. The CPL only came into thought into 2017. They played their first season in 2019. But you've already seen teams like Halifax Wanderers. They've been competing very well against these pre-established, very successful MLS teams. Like when you have the Impact versus Wanderers games, or you have Forge playing against these top teams in Mexico and South America or Central America for like CONCACAF qualifiers and CONCACAF Champions Leagues. They're beating these teams, and or at least putting up a very good fight. And we've only been in existence for 2 years, right? These teams are young. The whole league is young, playing against these leagues that have been around for decades, some even over a century, right? So I think that just shows that, hey, it's the right time to invest now in these teams because you'll be able to get those returns.
No, for sure. And like even the one example that I remember, because Ben Fisk, who's like one of the athletes at White Whale Marketing that comes to mind, is for the Canadian Championship, right? I was having my eyes on that, whether if they're gonna go play Whitecaps. I was talking to Haral. I'm like, oh, maybe I'll go to Vancouver, see Haral. We'll go to the Whitecaps game, all that good stuff. But then Pacific beat Whitecaps before they could even reach Calgary where Ben was. So that's what I mean, right? So. Or what you mean, right? So it's very much like a league that's only going to get more and more competitive, especially with the ninth. Is it the ninth one that's coming to Vancouver? But yeah. I did talk to someone, I forgot who it was, someone in Germany, and they're saying how like they talked to a top team, which at that means I'm assuming it's only Bayern or Red Bull or Dortmund. It has to be like one of those three or maybe some other ones. And they were saying like, yeah, they were in talks in regards to like thinking about like they love what Atletico did in coming to the CPL, and that like the top teams were like looking at ways to like come to the CPL. So I thought that was pretty cool for them to even just share. But
you never know. We could have a Red Bull Brampton coming soon.
Red Bull Brampton.
I'm waiting for it, bro. They say it gives you wings. That's the only way you'll soar is if you grow in Brampton. So the branding's already there.
Yeah, but the last thing I'll just say, and then we kind of maybe move on to the next topic too, is, you're talking about building this ecosystem and almost just like reinvesting like yourself and your career, right, to these teams and leagues. But at the same time, as more dollars get put to the national team, people then come down, right? Or maybe people that were initially sponsoring Team Canada, right? They're like, oh, you know what, we can afford this, but we still want to be within soccer and, target that audience. Then they're going to start looking at, other leagues or youth sports or even just grassroots, right? They're like, hey, like there's a market for this. And once there's more money, they can then invest in more programs, academies, etc. Where then it's just one thing leads to another. And it's like the butterfly effect. So, no, it's good stuff. I think that brings us, though, to the last topic here in regards to brands, right? So with this upcoming, trend that we're seeing now with soccer in Canada, one of the things we were talking about on the live stream we did on Tuesday was, how come we can't get a Nike jersey so easily, right, on Nike.com? Or then how would this affect like the Adidas in regards to their soccer equipment or cleats, right? So maybe we can kind of get into that and see like what types of things we think in regards to how these brands will be affected going forward with this.
I think one big trend that we've seen in the past few years is a major investment in Canadian soccer, even with brands that haven't necessarily been established in Canada in soccer or even in any sport in general. I mean, I didn't even know many teams in Canada or even the States or even Europe that had been sponsored by, I don't even know, how do you pronounce this? Macron?
Macron.
Macron. I don't know if it's French or something. Ask the French guy. But I mean, they're investing this money into these teams, into sponsorships. They're growing their brand as well as helping grow soccer in Canada. And we've seen it at the international level. We've seen it at the domestic level in the CPL. And we're even seeing it in the grassroots level. So my hometown club, we've done some work for already this year, little freelance gig that we helped out with, was West Ottawa Soccer Club. My old team played there for, can't even remember how many years now. But they're officially a Puma King club. They're Puma King Academy. So instead of just buying wholesale cost Puma kits for their team, putting their logo on it, they're officially a Puma Academy. So now they have the rights and the access to go and play other Puma King Academies anywhere in the world with the help of Puma. And I think that's something that's really interesting. Yeah. So, for example, my brother is now working as a technical director at a club in Halifax, and they're currently, well, I mean, it was an idea. It's nothing official or anything. But if they become a Puma King company and a Puma King team, then they'd be able to go to travel to Ottawa and go and play against the Ottawa Academy at the same age group or any age group, right? So again, it's that branding investment into Canadian soccer that's really interesting, because they're helping grow their own brand and their brand knowledge, their brand image, and their brand liking, as well as helping create, a better environment and ecosystem in Canadian soccer.
I didn't even know about that.
Yeah. I was talking to we had our AUS championships a few weekends ago, and one of my old coaches and one of the dads of the guys on our team, he works at West Ottawa as one of the academy coaches, and he was even saying, yeah, we're a Puma King. Their whole kit is Puma. They're all sponsored by Puma. Their facilities have Puma branding and advertising all over, and they're officially like a Puma King Academy. It's sort of like what Adidas does in a lot of European teams when they're like Adidas Tango teams and Adidas Predator teams. It's sort of like adding their brand sort of to the soccer brands and sports teams, and then kind of just like centralizing them in the Adidas organization.
Yeah, no.
It also does feel like, for the most part, I think brands like that will have to be creative in how they tap into the Canadian market, because I'm pretty sure Fanatics has partnered with Team Canada and Canada Soccer to be like the standalone e-commerce platform. We talk about like Fanatics all the time because they're literally taking over the merchandise space when it comes to sports. I mean, if that's the case, I know we talked about having trouble buying Nike kits. We had trouble like trying to find Team Canada kits. If all that's going to exist on Fanatics, that means the point that AJ brought up is going to be the best way for a brand like Puma, Nike, and Adidas to tap into the success of Canada Soccer. If they can't get their logos on the kits, they're going to have to go to the leagues. They're going to have to compete with the domestic leagues and whatever kind of branding exists within like the ecosystem of Canada Soccer. And that's going to be the only thing left, because one of the things that just came to my head is I know a lot of the CPL kits are sponsored by Volkswagen. The car sponsor of Team Canada or Canada Soccer is Toyota. So that's where you see the competition coming again, where, like Volkswagen, well, also they're a German brand, so it's hard for them to go out and sponsor a national brand like Canada Soccer. But even if they want to do, they can, because, well, Toyota is also a Japanese brand, so that kind of, trumps my argument there.
That's literally every car brand, though.
Exactly. Yeah. So if Volkswagen can't sponsor Canada Soccer, they went to the CPL and started sponsoring the kits there, and they're putting their logos on the kits of the CPL. So it's the growth of like soccer program here is obviously going to create brand opportunities for companies, organizations that want to get into the top and like fight with the big dogs. They might have to start a bit lower and be able to use more nonchalant marketing tactics to kind of tap into the mindset of Canada Soccer fans and really get into, get their brand presence out there through unconventional ways, I'd say.
No, I think you're spot on. I'm trying to write some things down because I'm gonna forget if I don't. But some interesting things that you guys are saying just in regards to like how it's impacting, right? Where like you said, and I think we touched on this throughout it, and I think that's something that's apparent, and like that's gonna be the theme for this trend and like this rise of Canada Soccer, is that if people can't get it at the top level, then they're gonna try getting their foot in the door wherever they can, whether it's different leagues, whether it's youth sports, or whether it's even just at the grassroots level, right? Where that's an audience that they find interest in. And to be honest, the Puma King stuff that you're saying is like genius, right? Because I think there's a stat in regards to, I don't know if I've ever said this stat to you guys yet, but apparently the logo on a child's head, I think it's for a boy, for in regards to like hockey is where I saw this. The logo on the kid's head at 9 years old, I think there's like a 95% chance that's his team for life. And I'm sure there's probably a relevant stat in regards to brands, right? Where I don't know about you guys, but my first pair of like proper hockey skates, where it's not like those little toddler ones with Velcro, were like Nike skates, and my cleats too were Nike. And I've always been I've loved Nike ever since, right? And I find you always end up seeing like the constant debate of people being like, hey, like I'm a Nike guy, or no, I'm an Adidas guy, right? And then whether it's Puma, Under Armour, whatever, getting the mix, and they're getting at these academies. I think that's a great way to kind of almost build that brand loyalty, right? Where if you can kind of get a kid the whole time they're like playing soccer or any type of sport, right? Because this goes even beyond soccer. You can, it's relevant for so many different sports. If you can get the kid wearing your brand for the whole 15 years or however long they play youth sports, that's a huge win. Because when their kid goes, or when they're gonna go buy a pair of shoes, hoodie, whatever, they're like, I know that brand's good because that's what I wore my whole life, right? And then that's how they're gonna go about it. So no, I think it's pretty.
That's what happened with my dad as well, because my dad played soccer his whole life, and he remembers when Adidas dropped the original Copa Mundials, like the all black leather boot. The laces are so long, you got to tie them under the boot. And that was one of the first pairs of like actual top quality boots that I had, because it was the boot that my dad loved the most. Yeah. He's like, you got to get the all leather. They're going to protect your feet. They have the best touch, and I wore them as well. So you're definitely going to like them. I think I like that trickle down effect that it stays in the family, and you maintain that brand loyalty over your entire lifetime. And that's just consistent sales for the brand, right?
Yeah. Well, that even goes in regards to like we're talking about like brands, right? In regards to like clothing or apparel. So that kind of even goes to like, I even go as far as saying cars, right? Like, what are you comfortable in? Like, what do you know? What did you learn to drive on, right? Or what did your parents? I don't know about you guys, but my parents had the same type of car my whole life growing up. Like that brand is what we kind of grew up with. So now when I get to the point where that's the type of car that I want, that's what I'm going for. I'm not going to go for the competitor. I'm going to go with what I'm used to, what I was raised on and stuff, right? And that's very apparent in all of the different niches and categories as well. But yeah, no, it's interesting. Anything else? I think that's usually this is our time frame, right? About 30 minutes, 10 minutes a topic, unless you guys have anything else you'd like to share.
I think AJ had the best point there. We're talking about like investments. We're talking about brands. I think the biggest question we always ask, and the question of this episode is what's next? Whether it's Red Bull, whether it's Nike, whether it's any brand looking to invest or grow, if you're looking for an ecosystem to grow Canada soccer, I say this time and time again, but all roads run through Brampton. So if any brands are listening, Brampton, Ontario, hit up the 6, not directly the 6, maybe just a little bit outside there, hit up the 410, the 401, come through the Brampton. I mean, the proof is in the pudding, right? We've got stars on all teams there, both the men's and the women's side representing Brampton. So
like you even said, bro, these are our jerseys for our practices. That's what we got on the back.
What's next? That's good. I thought you were gonna pull like a Brampton jersey out. I'm like, no way.
No, wrong screen. That's my screen.
Yeah. That's for Hall Switch.
Yeah. All right, guys. Well, I think that covers everything. As always, the newsletter. You guys can subscribe if you're watching on Facebook, Twitch, or YouTube, or if you're on Instagram, just click the link in the bio. And you can subscribe to the Sport Marketeer. Get the topics we chatted about today in written form sent directly to your inbox. Check it out there. And I'll see you guys next week. That's all for today's stream. So we can end on Instagram, and now we'll end on Facebook, YouTube, and all that good stuff.
Class.
Yep,